Welcome back to Fox 5 on the Hill Live this Sunday morning. Virginia's early voting has begun in the special election to replace the late Congressman Jerry Connolly. On the ballot for Virginia's 11th district is Democrat James Walkinshaw and Republican Stewart Whitson. He spoke with Walkinshaw a couple of weeks ago. We're pleased to welcome in the Republican candidate Stewart Whitson this morning. Good to see you, sir.
Great to see you, too.
The whole reason you're having this special election is because of the passing of the former Congressman Jerry Connolly. He is a Democrat, you're a Republican. Is there anything from Jerry Connolly's tenure that you look at as something that maybe has worth to carry forward?
Nothing comes to mind, and I think that's kind of part of the reason why I'm running, is I think a lot of people in our district are ready for change. I think they're ready for, taxes that were out of control during, Connolly's reign, and taxes that will continue to be out of control during his replacement's reign are a big problem for the people in our district. And I think they're also worried about some of the other issues affecting our families, from public safety to the woke agenda going on behind closed doors in our schools. And so they're looking for change.
At the start of this broadcast, we had a story about how some Democrats are talking about the future direction of the Democratic Party. We did see during the big, beautiful bill debate amongst the Republicans, there was some wrangling back and forth about what core conservative principles are when it comes to federal spending. You would be one of the younger members of Congress if you were elected. Are you comfortable with the direction of the Republican Party right now, or do you represent a new generation that might do things differently maybe than the current direction?
Well, I think that's hard to answer, but, what's the direction of an entire party? Because you're talking to hundreds of people. And so for me, when I look at our situation right now, we don't have a revenue problem in D.C. We have a spending problem. And so we do need to rein in the reckless spending. At the same time, you have to realize as a member of Congress, you're not always going to get what you want. And so you have to look at each piece of legislation. Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to give you everything? No. But at the end of the day, does it help the people in our district? If the answer is yes, then you have to advance that forward.
President Trump has made it pretty clear that he wants Republicans to fall in line and follow his lead. If you were to be elected to Congress, would your priorities center on the 11th district or what it is President Trump wants you to do?
Of course it would center on our district, but I'll push back a little bit. I think what President Trump wants to do are things that will benefit our district. And so closing a wide open border that allowed drugs, fentanyl and dangerous MS-13 gang members to flood into our communities, bringing crimes, wreaking havoc on our families. Stopping that's something that benefits Virginia's 11. Passing the largest tax cut in American history, that's big for the president, but guess what? That's big for the people in our district, too. It's going to put an average up to $14,800 more into the pockets of the people in our district. So that's good policy. And what we can't do is let politics get in the way of people. And so that's what my opponent is doing, is every single thing the president does, he's blindly opposing. And what we need to do is stop and say, hey, what is best for the people in our district?
There's a saying that all politics is local and things that happen on the federal level affect neighborhoods. Let's talk about education right now. President has announced that he's shutting down the Department of Education. Is that a good idea? How would that affect schools in your district?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think if you look at historical test scores and the performance of schools, you see a decline starting right about the time that President Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education. And so it is a project that failed. And so to continue a project that failed, it makes no sense. And so what we need to do is take all that money that was being spent for the Department of Education and bring that money directly into the hands of parents.
We talked about federal layoffs with Governor Glenn Youngkin just a few moments ago. A 3.5% unemployment rate in Virginia, and it's hitting particularly hard in Northern Virginia, the district you want to represent. How are these federal layoffs a good thing if you're affecting the employment rate in Virginia in a negative way?
Well, so layoffs are never a good thing. They happen all the time in private businesses, and they're happening in the government as well. I'll remind you and our listeners, as you know, I spent a decade in the FBI, so I am a former federal employee. I know that when there's a layoff of a federal employee, it doesn't just affect that person, it affects their family. And so what we have to do is move forward. We have to say, okay, what's happened has happened. How are we going to create opportunities for the people in our district? And there's a couple answers. Number one, good employees who may have been pushed out of the federal government, we need to help find a way to get them back in if they want to come in. But number two, even more important, we need to create economic opportunities for them to start a second career that can be even more rewarding than their career was at the federal side. We have people in our district that are veterans, that are former federal government, that have a wealth of experience, and we can create opportunities for them in our district where they'll thrive
You mentioned the tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill that the president has signed, but there are other effects as well, too, affecting cuts to Medicaid. What would you do to expand the safety net for health care of people in your district?
Well, I would push back. So there are no cuts to Medicaid. So if you look at the one after the one big beautiful bill passed, Medicaid is going to go up. No, one second. Yeah. Medicaid is going to go up by 26%. So $173 billion more is going to be spent on Medicaid over the course of 10 years after the one big beautiful bill. And I'll say this, the cuts to Medicaid, 1.7 million are illegal immigrants coming off the program. That's what CBO is counting as a cut. Millions of the cuts are people that were dual enrolled in 2 states. And so they're losing enrollment in the state they no longer live in. CBO called that a cut. And so this is the fact. No one is losing Medicaid coverage who's legally entitled to the program.
If you find that not to be the case, would you be open to reopening this and restoring some of those benefits?
No, but that is the case. So no one who is legally entitled to Medicaid.
Yeah.
And so this is important, though, because Medicaid is a program designed for the truly needy. And so we have to protect elderly citizens, pregnant women, children in poverty, the disabled. And so putting those program integrity measures in place, putting common sense work requirements is a way to protect the program for the truly needy.
So you're dismissing the CBO
There are no
estimates?
cuts. And so just because that talking point is being repeated over and over by the media doesn't make it true. I ask people to just look at the bill and they'll find the answer.
We're flat out of time. We thank you so much for joining us in studio this morning. He is Stewart Whitson. He is the Republican candidate in Virginia's 11th Congressional District. We thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.